When designing the different kingdoms in Super Mario Odyssey, Nintendo did something really interesting. They didn't stick to a single blueprint on how to build the different worlds, but they decided to give each stage a completely different structure. The levels vary in size. Some of them are built around a central point of interest, some of them are just flat with several different areas across them. Some of them use a lot of verticality, some are shaped like an open disc, others follow an almost completely linear path. In short, the different kingdoms in Super Mario Odyssey not only differ in their setting, but they are also all built in a completely unique way. But if all kingdoms are built in a unique way, then that also raises a question that we as critical Super Mario nerds simply can't ignore. Which Super Mario Odyssey kingdom is the best one? And more importantly, which one is the absolute worst? So today we're finally going to answer this eternal question, because today we're going to take a closer look at all the different kingdoms in Super Mario Odyssey. We'll discuss how good their setting and their structure work. We will rate all of them on how successful as a kingdom they are. And finally, we're going to put all of the kingdoms into a tier list that, at least in my opinion, objectively represents my opinion on how good the kingdoms are. So you ready? Let's do this! Okay, so before we start, let's just quickly talk about the rules of this little kingdom evaluation. Since some of the worlds drastically change during the story progression, we're going to rate all of them in their final story state, like after all the bosses got defeated and all the objectives are completed. But we're going to discuss them before the moon crates are opened, because otherwise stuff would get a bit messy. Second, we're going to rate them using our 5 fuzzy rated rating system. We're going to rate each kingdom on a scale from 1 to 5 fuzzies. The more fuzzies a kingdom gets, the better it is, for obvious reasons. Hooray! So let's jump into our first kingdom, the Cap Kingdom. So let's start with the good stuff. First, the setting of the stage is really unique. It's a really interesting idea to start a Mario game with a magical head-themed stage instead of a standard ground-themed one. The fog effect on the ground here really helps to sell the atmosphere. Layout-wise, the Cap Kingdom is built in a super simple way. It's just 3 connected islands surrounded by a bottomless pit. The structure is easy to read and it is super easy to navigate between all the wonderful and amazing things that are hidden on the 3 main islands, which directly leads us to the Cap Kingdom's biggest problem. I'm sorry for what I'm about to say, Cap Kingdom, but you're kind of boring. Actually, there aren't many wonderful and amazing things hidden in you. All the moons in this kingdom are kind of basic and there isn't really much to explore either. Also, the Cap Kingdom captures just aren't that exciting. The frog is, well, alright I guess. But the winged Goomba capture is one of the most frustrating captures in the game. In theory, it sounds so cool to become a winged Goomba with wings and to fly around. The only problem is that the game limits how high the Goomba is able to fly up to, for no real reason. It would be so cool if there was a kingdom where we were able to freely fly around in, maybe with some floating islands to discover, and a Cap Kingdom would have been the perfect kingdom for such shenanigans. But for whatever reason, the Goombas refuse to fly upwards. Sometimes it's not even possible to reach ground level with them. Can you just please let me fly over this fence? Finally, the huge magical head tower is a bit of a letdown. They designed this huge, intriguing tower that is kind of the central point of the whole kingdom. And then its interior is one of the most boring areas in the entire game. I'm really sorry, Cap Kingdom. I really like your setting, but that's still only 2 fuzzies for you. Next, let's take a look at the Cascade Kingdom. The Cascade Kingdom is probably best described as a dinosaur cliff thingy. The whole stage follows this linear path upwards towards the top of the stage. That's a really clever structure for a world, since it gives us tons of small areas to explore that are all along the main path, while it's also structured in a way that leads to a clear goal, in this case the top of the cliff. There are tons of fun little things to discover here. There are lots of small secrets hidden along the path. Running around as a gigantic T-Rex causing mayhem is exactly as much fun as it sounds. The chain jump captures are a neat little distraction. Overall, the Cascade Kingdom would be a really great place in the Mushroom World if it wasn't for one huge problem. The whole level leads upwards towards the top of the cliff. It really pushes us to climb the mountain and to find out what wonders await us on its top. And then, after destroying rocks, climbing over cliffs, and even getting two-dimensional for a moment, we finally make it up there. And then there is a scarecrow challenge at the top? A scarecrow challenge and this lonely power moon floating around? Like, seriously? The top is only used as a boss arena for the fight against Our Lady, Madame Brutal. But since they needed the top to be empty for the boss fight, the whole stage is dragged down. The Cascade Kingdom is really missing something on top of it, like a gigantic dinosaur skeleton or a natural platforming challenge. But the way it currently is, it kind of falls flat. At least for me. So let's rate Cascade with solid 3 fuzzies. It's a good stage, but it misses a highlight to really make it stand out. Luckily, the next stage definitely has highlights. The Sand Kingdom. Holy fuzzy, what a kingdom. So the structure of this stage is just brilliant, and I'm honestly a bit surprised that I never saw something like that used in a 3D platformer before. The level is a huge flat disc with 7 points of interest spread over the disc. There is the oasis, the town, the pyramid, the toxic lake, the Moai area, the small ruin at the end of the map, and the central tower in its middle. And in between those 7 areas there is tons of empty space. So first, that really helps to sell the feeling of a desert, but second, it also means that each point on the map is always clearly visible, which makes it really easy to navigate the map. Since the distances between the different points are really large, there are the amazing and chaotic checksees and the bullet bill captures that make it much easier to navigate large distances. There are tons of small secrets tucked into each corner of the map. It all just perfectly clicks together. Sand Kingdom, that's a perfect 5 fuzzies rating for you. Great job. Next up is the Lake Kingdom. So that one is a bit of a weird kingdom. So we have this huge water area in its center and a smaller area right next to it. And that's it. Lake is definitely one of the smaller kingdoms, and it is the kingdom that focuses the most onto swimming. So usually swimming stages are a recipe for disaster in 3D platformers. Literally every single platformer I've ever played had better controls on land than underwater, which often made the water stages the worst levels in the game. Odyssey is no different here. Running and jumping around as Mario is just a lot more fun on land. But to be fair, Mario's underwater physics are actually really good. It's far less painful to swim in this game than it is in Mario 64, for example. Second, Cheap Cheeps are finally useful for something in this stage. Seriously, they really nailed the Cheap Cheep capture. Swimming around as a Cheap Cheep just feels awesome and makes exploring this stage much easier. Nonetheless, the Lake Kingdom falls a bit more on the boring sides of kingdoms, everything considered. So let's go with good old 3 fuzzies here, and let's head over to the Wooded Kingdom. So the Wooded Kingdom is kind of fascinating. So first, the whole thing is huge. It's one of the largest kingdoms. But second, and much more interestingly, its whole structure is kind of messy. The stage builds up vertically into 2 different directions, once towards this tower and once towards the main boss fight of the stage. Many of the different areas in the stage connect in ways that are really hard to map out mentally. For example, let's say we start here, then we go through this tunnel, we go to the left, we climb up this vine, now we're on this plateau and turn to the right. Anyone still has any idea where the Odyssey is located at? Yeah, me neither, it's to our right. The thing is, it is usually completely clear where we are in relation to our starting point in Odyssey. The question really doesn't pop up in the Cascade Kingdom or in Sand, yet it is really difficult to map out the Wooded Kingdom mentally. So here is where this gets interesting. On paper, a level that is really hard to memorize sounds horrible. Yet Wooded totally works, even though it is structured in a maze-like way. So how did they pull this off? Well, they did something really interesting. At first, the stage follows a clear path, but once we reach this area, the whole kingdom basically splits into 2. One path leads towards the tower where the brutal battle takes place, the other path leads towards the flower-stealing UFO boss. Both of those paths consist of several memorable and interesting sub-areas, like the climb where evil piranha plants try to poison us and this completely nuts section, or this area with the tanks. The 2 paths don't really intersect with each other, but since both are clearly linear, it is still possible to orientate ourselves in the stage, even if we aren't entirely sure where in the kingdom we currently are in the bigger picture. It's a wonderful stage, and the fact that it's a bit more challenging to orientate ourselves here actually makes the level more interesting. So let's rate this kingdom with 4 wonderful fuzzies. For anyone wondering why we aren't going with 5 fuzzies here, no. That's not because I'm selfish and want to keep all the fuzzies to myself, it's because of the deeper woods. This part just doesn't fit well into the stage. Leaving it again after failing a challenge in the upper kingdom takes forever and is really frustrating, and there isn't that much going on down here to make up for it. So the Cloud Kingdom. That's one lonely fuzzy. I guess that one is self-explaining. That's just not a kingdom. It's a boss arena, and it's not even an especially interesting boss arena. Let's not waste any time here. Next, the Lost Kingdom. Lost is kind of interesting, because it's one of the very few kingdoms that actually does something that I honestly would expect every stage in a 3D Mario game to do. It actually has natural platforming challenges built into its core design. Most Odyssey kingdoms don't do that. They're often structured in a way that makes it really easy to navigate through the kingdom, and the actual platforming challenges either take place off of the main path or they are completely hidden behind the extra challenge rooms. Take the upcoming Snow Kingdom or Seaside. Both are built in a way that makes it perfectly easy to navigate through them, since there aren't any real challenges built into those areas. All of those challenges are locked away, but the Lost Kingdom is a bit different. There are those rotating platforms that connect several important areas. There are those ground pound pillars, there are a couple of wall jump challenges, there are those exploding Cappy missile guys. All of those things are along the main path through the stage, which makes navigation through the Lost Kingdom a lot more interesting overall. That's honestly something I'd love to see more of if they ever do a Mario Odyssey 2. Places like those rotating bridges in the Lost Kingdom, this ruin in the Sand Kingdom, or this climbing section in the Wooded Kingdom are some of my favorite spots in the game. It's just cool if the stage itself is built in a way that encourages skillful play, and why not all challenges are hidden behind separate doors. So what's our final score for this long Lost Kingdom? Well, let's go with 4 fuzzies here. I really like the stage and it's one of the highlights of the game, but the level is just a bit too small to really deserve a perfect rating. Next, let's take a look at the famous Metro Kingdom. So, that one is quickly rated. 5 perfect fuzzies. Metro is just an amazing stage. They really nailed the feeling of it being a dense and busy city, which is kind of funny considering that the city only contains of 2 main streets. The whole stage is built like a rectangle with tons of skyscrapers plastered around it. This gives this fantastic kingdom a nice sense of vertical progression. Flinging around at the side of the buildings by capturing those pole thingies is especially great. Kind of feels like playing as a less athletic version of Spider-Man, which sounds like good times to me. What a great kingdom. Hooray! Sadly, the next one isn't that great. It's time for the Snow Kingdom. What an awkward stage. So first, I really appreciate that Nintendo tried to give each level a completely unique structure, but whatever they were planning to pull off with the Snow Kingdom, it didn't work for me. The level is structured in such a weird way. First, we have the snow area above the town. There isn't anything overly exciting going on here, it's mainly a hub that leads to Shiveria Town. And this is where stuff gets weird, because Shiveria Town is once again just a hub that leads to 4 different challenge rooms. And once we collected the moons in the 4 challenge rooms, a door opens up that leads us to one final room that kind of acts as a hub for the rolling minigame. It's all a bit hubby. The thing is, the areas in the 4 main challenge rooms just don't feel like part of the level to me, even though they probably were intended to be, considering that a boss fight takes place in one of them. As it is right now, the stage just lacks a bit of focus. So, sorry, my dearest Snow Kingdom, but that is only a single fuzzy for you. Oh, come on, Snow Kingdom, really? Do you really think you're going to get more fuzzies just because you're showing us the cute penguins from Mario 64 that sometimes appear? Well, okay, maybe you're right. Let's go with 2 fuzzies. So Seaside. Well, what an excellent kingdom. This stage is probably my favorite underwater level in any platformer ever. The underwater exploration here just works so great. There are small gaps in the sea floor we can swim into, and suddenly we find cool hidden challenges. There are parts where the sea floor just drastically drops down, and suddenly we swim into a deep and mysterious hole. And then there are those cool caves that kind of make us feel like we're swimming through a beautiful coral reef. What ties all of this together is the fact that Cheep Cheeps just work so well for underwater exploration. But the Cheep Cheeps aren't the only great capture in this kingdom, since my probably favorite capture is located here. the Gushen. Oh my gosh, Gushens are so great. It's just so much fun to travel through the kingdom as a jetpack octopus. Winged Goombas with wings. You see those guys? That's what you could have been. Thanks to the Gushen over water and the Cheep Cheeps underwater, it is really easy to travel horizontally and vertically everywhere in this stage, which makes it quite unique and a lot of fun to explore. Seaside, that's an easy, perfect 5 fuzzies rating for you. Hooray! Time to take a look at Luncheon. Okay, so that one is probably going to be the most controversial rating in this unbelievably controversial video today, but that's only 3 fuzzies for Luncheon. So let me explain. The thing is, Luncheon is the kingdom that, at least in my opinion, suffers the most because of the story progression triggers. So in Odyssey, most kingdoms gate off some of their content until we progress in the story. Nintendo probably did this for 2 reasons. First, it makes it easier to get cool boss fights and small set pieces like the Broodals or the Ball Race into the game like that. And second, because it allows them to slowly open up the kingdoms, allowing us to get a feel for the stage and its layout before we are finally allowed to explore it as a whole. So far so fine. The problem is, in order for this system to work, they have to design all kingdoms in a way that they, well, actually are able to block off some of the content in a natural way. In the Sand Kingdom, that works perfectly fine, for example. They just freeze all of the stuff they don't want us to interact with yet, until we defeat the boss. Alright, why not? In Luncheon, however, this dictates the entire layout of the stage, and that's not to the kingdom's benefit in my opinion. Let's take a look at the Luncheon map. At first, we're only allowed to explore this part. Then we defeat the toxic violet stuff-spitting Broodal and this area opens up. The next story trigger opens up this area until we're finally allowed to explore all areas of the map. So what's the problem here? Well, Luncheon is really kind of split into 4 parts because of this. There aren't many ways to travel from one of those 4 areas to another one. In theory, the stage is laid out as a lava soup lake that surrounds a huge volcano in its middle, but in truth, there is no way to climb the volcano from this side. There is no easy way from here to the other side of the mountain, and the path on the other side is really boring and takes ages. Which brings us to the next not so delicious problem that Luncheon has. The lava bubble capture just isn't that exciting. All that capturing a lava bubble really does is to allow us to, well, walk over water really slowly and without good jumping physics. Usually that wouldn't be a big deal. Many of the captures in the game are really simple but work fine. The problem here is that the stage almost exclusively relies on the lava bubble capture to move around. Other than that, the kingdom is really cool, but I can't help myself. I think a Luncheon kingdom that is actually built like a circle around the volcano with paths that Mario is able to take without stupidly capturing a lava bubble before would have been the better Luncheon kingdom. Anyway, what's next? Ruined? Alright, dear Ruined Kingdom, 1 fuzzy. Please try harder next game. Cool rank though. Before we discuss the last 3 major kingdoms, let's quickly fill in the final 2, Dark Side and Darker Side. So that's 2 fuzzies for the Dark Side. Really not much to say about this kingdom. It's kind of cool that they gave the boss rush and the extra challenge rooms their own little area, but they definitely didn't do much else with the kingdom. Darker Side is a single fuzzy. So I'm not taking the actual challenge room into account here, just the hub to it, and yeah, there isn't much going on here, is there? Though that's really no big deal. Alright, so Bowser's Kingdom. So when I first arrived here, during my first Odyssey playthrough, many decades ago, I honestly was a bit disappointed. The whole game kind of leads up to that moment when we're finally able to explore Bowser's castle, and then the moment finally comes. And the whole stage is just a linear gauntlet of mandatory platforming challenges. It's just broken up into 8 small islands. I don't know, I was really looking forward to exploring a huge castle. So let's rate Bowser's with a total of 4 wonderful fuzzies. The thing is the following. The more I explored Bowser's Kingdom after completing the main objectives, the more it grew on me. First, there is actually a surprising amount of stuff to discover, even though the stage is so linear, especially the final castle section has secrets tucked into every second corner. Second, the bird capture is just so much fun to use. I still think a huge castle stage to explore freely would have been great, but I have to admit, jumping on top of the roofs of this strange Japanese castle stage is kind of fun as well. Cool. 2 kingdoms are left for us to discuss. Next, Moon Kingdom. That's only 2 fuzzies. The moon just lacks a highlight. It's kind of cool that they made a kingdom with different jumping physics and less gravity, but it didn't really do much with it in the end. I can't shake off the feeling that the Moon Kingdom was designed as a story moment first, and then they tried to randomly add a couple of moons to some spots. The whole kingdom just doesn't feel very inspired. Sometimes I wonder if the moon wouldn't have been a better kingdom if the content of Dark Side was woven into it, like have the rabbit tower somewhere in the real Moon Kingdom, but only open it up after we collected enough moons. Same with the extra hard challenge rooms, because as it is now, we kind of got 2 decent moon areas that just aren't that exciting to explore instead of one big one. Anyway, time for the final kingdom, the Mushroom Kingdom. Honestly, not much to say about that one. It's incredibly cool to have the 64 throwback at the end of the game, and it's also a really interesting choice to put the easiest kingdom at the end, like as a breather and to relax a bit after defeating the main boss. But on the other hand, well, there really isn't much to do here. A lot of the moons here feel like tutorial moons that they tagged onto the game at the end, and it kind of serves as a hub for the boss rematches. I don't know, let's go with 3 fuzzies here. Alright, so now we finally have all the kingdoms in a tier list. Hooray! Before we finally find out which kingdom is the worst one and which one is the best one, let's just quickly discuss why some kingdoms work better than others. Because the thing is, Odyssey kind of has an identity crisis. Odyssey just tries to be 2 games at once. On the one hand, the game wants to be a traditional 3D collectathon like Mario 64 was, but on the other hand, the game wants to be a literal odyssey, like a journey that Mario embarks that brings him into many different areas where he has to fight dangerous bosses and survives countless crazy situations. And the Odyssey thing in Odyssey kind of works against its collectathon part. So many of the kingdoms follow a linear path that continuously unlocks while Mario makes his way through tons of crazy situations. They kind of tried to make 2 games in one. One linear game where Mario platforms through linear set piece to linear set piece, and one open sandbox game where Mario just explores crazy different worlds, and many of the kingdoms suffer for it. I think this focus on creating a real odyssey for Mario kind of really limited them in how they were able to approach the different worlds. So I love Mario Odyssey, and I think the game is one of the best Mario games ever made. But if they ever were to make a sequel, I personally would really love it if the sequel focuses less on the journey part of the adventure and more on interesting and crazy settings for Mario to explore. Anyway, so which kingdom is the worst one and which one is the best? Let's start with the worst one. So nominated for winning the title of the worst kingdom in Super Mario Odyssey are the Cloud Kingdom for being an empty white space, the Ruined Kingdom for being an empty boss arena in an unbelievably cool setting, and the Darker Side for not being anything but a door to a challenge room. And the loser is, at least in my opinion, the Ruined Kingdom. So here's my reasoning. All of those 3 kingdoms are basically the same. They're empty. But the fact that the Ruined Kingdom isn't a kingdom, but just a single empty tower just hurts the most. The setting is so unbelievably intriguing. I want to explore all those ruined towers in the distance, and I'm still speechless that they decided to tease us with such an amazing setting without delivering anything meaningful. Ruined Kingdom, I am still disappointed by you. Alright, so which kingdom in the game is the absolute best one? The nominees are the Sand Kingdom for being a joy to explore, the Metro Kingdom for its clever use of verticality, and the Seaside Kingdom for being probably the best underwater stage ever crafted. And the winner is, out of those 3 kingdoms, the Sand Kingdom. Holy fuzzy, I love the Sand Kingdom. It's just structured in such a cool way. No matter where in the kingdom we are, there are always several fascinating places in view that look like a ton of fun to explore. The ruin in the middle of the stage is one of the highlights in the game in my opinion. The Moai area is a lot of fun to explore. There is so much stuff hidden in the town. Then there's this cute little oasis area that features a surprising amount of content all on its own. In my opinion, that stage is the one that turned out best. But that's just my opinion, and I'd love to find out what all of you wonderful ladies and gentlemen think about this. So let's do one of those cool election thingies again. If you hover with your mouse over the screen, you should see a small eye in the top right corner. That's where all of you are able to vote. The voting question is the following. The best Super Mario Odyssey Kingdom is A. The Sand Kingdom, B. The Metro Kingdom, C, the Seaside Kingdom, or D, none of the above? I can't wait to find out whether you agree with me on this matter. Awesome. So with that being said, thanks for watching this little video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up and maybe feel especially like you're small. Let's do a quick 10-minute video about the different kingdoms in Odyssey project. Got a bit out of hand today and want to hit the subscribe button as well. I hope that all of you have a wonderful day and to see you soon. Goodbye.